What is the biggest lie you've been told by society? My dad told a joke once with the punchline was basically I refuse to answer questions without my attorney present. Me being impressionable at that age, I remembered that and the delivery, and when I was asked a question in school, I stood up and yelled I refuse to answer questions without my attorney present. No idea what it meant, just knew that was the answer to a question. The teacher thought it was freaking hilarious and told me to sit down. Yep, nothing dishonest about lawyering up, though. That's what you're supposed to do. It's so important we'll even give you a free one, and in America we don't even give people free soup. But really, it's not your job to help the government convict you of a crime. For all you know, the government could have done something illegal to arrest you or get evidence against you, and you'd never know without a lawyer looking at the situation. Even if you want to confess, an attorney can leverage your confession to make sure the government follows the rules during the process and doesn't give you an unfair punishment, etc. That makes our government better. We don't want the government getting away with sloppy police work. They're supposed to be the good guys. It's poor citizenship if you don't make them do it by the books when they are trying to throw you in a cage. Kids are told that you'll grow up, meet someone, marry and live happily ever after, a fairy tale instead of the truth. Sometimes you don't meet someone, not organically. Marriage isn't always the answer, and relationships are damn hard work. There probably is, but chance leaves a huge gap on actually finding them or not. The one for you might live 800 miles away in a town with a population of 500 people and you'll never even know they exist. But there are also probably several hundred ones out there. People like to think of themselves as unique and require a unique partner, but there are only a few dozen or so variations on human personality, so it's unlikely you require such a unique mate. If you agree on big stuff, ethics, morals, religion, children, politics, family, money, the rest can usually be worked out. You ultimately have to find someone that you just like. You like hanging around with them, fucking them, doing things with them, who offers you value and personal development, and who you are willing to put up with their bullshit because everything else is worth it. In order to do that, you must work on yourself and create your own self as someone worth wanting to be with. You must become someone who is happy, confident, interesting, and strive to become more. You can't expect to give up on yourself and find someone who fills in all of your shortcuts. I work for a company that is entirely remote. 90% of communication is done over Slack messages, 10% is done over Zoom meetings. My wife and I were pre-approved for a home loan the other day. Our lender gave us several guidelines to follow during the process, one of which was that I shouldn't accept raise until I talk to them first. By random happenstance, a day later, my boss offered me a raise. I had to tell him to hold on to it while I contacted my lender. Lender gave me the go-ahead to take it. I was keeping my mom in the loop. I told her that I can take the raise. Did you call your boss and tell him? Well, I sent him a message, but yes, you should have called him. It would have reflected better on you. Calling someone over the phone is for emergencies only, than making a meeting next time. He'd appreciate you telling him in person. I couldn't think of anything that would inconvenience my boss more than scheduling a meeting just to tell him I can take the raise. I met too many people that actively hated being married. And this was at a fairly conservative company. Owner was an elder at my dad's church. They ended up alone anyways, just had to go through a bunch of drama and expensive divorce first. Not worth it. If you find someone and actually want to spend the rest of your life with them, then sure, go for it. But definitely don't try to force it. People act like marriage is some kind of ideal to strive for when really it's just something two people do to protect their mutual interests, usually kids, for the long term. Don't let the Disney fairy tale distract you from the reality of the decision you're making. Yeah, I'm on the autism spectrum and have trouble forming relationships. I'm perfectly happy with no friends and I'm extremely lucky I have family I can rely because I have issues that would not be fair to force on a significant other, and kids would make it even worse. Not really the autism, but depression and anxiety are a bitch, and ADHD meds are expensive. Plus casual physical contact makes my skin crawl. I came to terms that I was going to die a virgin before I came out of my teens. Randall Munro debunked that pretty solidly just by showing how insanely difficult it would be for everyone to meet their perfect match even if they devoted all their waking hours to it. Nah, there are probably enough people who would have me, there might even be a few who I will also have, and no doubt if I met one of them we'd be perfectly happy together, but there's no single person who's perfect for me in every way. That's not the meaning of there's someone out there for everyone. That's a soulmate he's maybe thinking of. Saying there is someone out there for everyone means that there is no one that need go loveless through their entire life. There will always be someone who will want to be with someone. It's just some may need to lower their standards. The problem is all the successful people, when asked their secret to success, will spew something along the lines of just be yourself. It may be intentionally done to hide their real secret to success, or they just forgot that you have to climb the ladder high enough to be allowed to be yourself. Actually, until you get there you really can't just be yourself, as there are consequences and they are usually not good. When successful people give the advice of just be yourself, they really mean be like me, which can be very good advice if you understand it for what it is. If you want to play in the NBA, I'd strongly advise you to try to be like LeBron or another NBA player. The most likely path to the NBA is doing your best to mimic the guys who have already paved the way ahead of you. I disagree. When people set out to be like someone that is already famous like that, they try to emulate them at their peak. Riley in Boondocks does this when he plays basketball and fails. I know Boondocks isn't real life, but it rings true in this instance. If you essentially try to be like a famous person, rather than working on your skills independent of those people, you're doomed to fail because you're always comparing yourself to a great rather than trying to surpass them naturally. This could be discouraging and confusing. It's all about self-improvement and development, not empty emulation. Sure, you can take tips and tricks from others, but generally if you want to be successful, you should try to be a better version of yourself rather than anything else. A better version of 99.99% of people isn't particularly good. If you want to be in the NBA, emulate NBA players, learn how they train, practice, etc., then do your best to emulate what they do. Just being a better you isn't going to cut it. That's not to say it's a bad goal. People should always be focused on self-improvement, but understand self-improvement is self-limiting. If you don't know how NBA players practice and train, you aren't going to be able to do your own thing and expect results. The problem with this advice is that's completely true. For certain people, anyone who succeeds by being themselves is innately the type of person who will be successful at that thing. The gregarious, extroverted guy with a knack for including people in conversations will clean up at a commission-based sales job. The introverted nerd who can only keep a conversation going by info-dumping about the Halo universe will starve. Likewise, the meticulous, obsessively attentive to detail shut-in lady who learns stuff for fun is an ideal software engineer. The woman who wings everything and can't focus on a task for more than an hour before she has to talk with someone to recharge her social battery isn't the best fit. You can absolutely work against your own nature to do anything you want, within reason. If you're 5 feet 3 inches, you're not playing in the NBA, and before you blurt out Muggsy Bogues, the fact you're referencing a dude who played 30 years ago and was known exclusively for being short sorta proves my point. So, don't be yourself, be the person who will succeed at what you're trying to do. That going to college is absolutely needed. Yes, there are certain careers that college is absolutely need or will help you get your foot in the door. There are tons of options like trade schools, or just starting in your desired industry and working your way up. In my experience, gaining the experience for the industry is way more sought after than a degree. For a vast majority of us, college isn't needed and you can still get good jobs. I wasted 2 years of my life going to college and $25K in debt for nothing. Now I have a good job and make more than a decent amount of my friends who went to college. I found it miserable. I came from a crappy education, and I never properly learned efficient study techniques. So I'd consistently study 40-50 hours a week on top of working and trying, but usually failing, at going to parties, doing extracurriculars, and networking. Funnily enough, I have way more free time working a 9-5, my entire weekends, an hour or two in the morning, and 5+ hour evenings are completely free. I was so shocked at all of this free time I suddenly had that it took me a year to figure out how to use it fulfillingly. Got into powerlifting, side projects, investing, hiking, road trips, traveling, cycling, reading, airsoft. Wouldn't have had the time for even one of those in college. Yes, my husband is now seeing this for the first time. He has always been able to work hard and prosper. He has seen my stress myself out for work, breaking out in hives, vomiting, stress eating, to get things done that the boss wasn't doing. I had to fight for my raise, and only after not being in the office did I get it. Once it was realized how much it sucks when I'm not there, I have now had to learn that if it is not directly my job, let it go. Let them suffer the consequences of not handling something, because I was killing myself trying to prove that I was worth it by trying to do everything. Obviously, but when I was married, my life was a lot more difficult than being single. If I was sick, he still expected me to work and take care of housework. If he was sick, I had to work, do housework and take care of him. Now that I've been divorced for over a decade, it's wonderful to only have to take care of myself. I never have to worry about money being spent that I don't really have. I don't have to worry about someone breaking something and then have to figure out how to fix it. Coming home to someone who quit their job and now I get to figure out how bills are getting paid. Marriage or relationship isn't always security. You don't get paid on how hard you work. You get paid by how replaceable your skill set is. Most IT people do jack shit 90% of the day, but they're paid well because they're very important for the 10% of time they are needed, and not many people can, or think they can, figure it out. Hell, I work in an in-demand field and have been on Reddit all day long. It's just when I do need to do my job. Most people can't do it, but I can. I know exactly what you are trying to say. As a software consultant, I frequently tell my clients something may take several weeks but finish up much earlier. Do I tell them? Number, because they then ask for changes and more work to be done because they didn't feel like I spent as much time on it. So I sit on it to the very last day and then they fuck off happy and leave me alone. It's high time that people were rewarded for proportional production rather than proportional time. But society is too broken to ever adopt to that model. Our very notion of work is hours per week, not what you can actually get done in a week. If you gave someone an assignment and said if they finish it before the end of the week, they can take the rest of the week off, watch how incredibly fast that person will work and all of the effort they will put into it, versus knowing if they finish early, they are just going to be assigned more tasks. For sure, the BS that money doesn't buy happiness only comes from people that are already financially secure. Tell this shit to someone about to lose their house because they got fired due to automation and haven't been able to get a new one for a good while. Someone that can't afford meds in the US. People below the poverty line that can't afford groceries. people living paycheck to paycheck and could need therapy, etc. Money does indeed buy happiness. This is the lie that really turned me to always suspecting any authority. It was such an all-encompassing, ever-present lie. When I was a child I believed it fully, right until I did drugs the first time and literally nothing happened. I didn't have different thoughts, didn't magically become a different person, didn't suddenly start doing all the stuff I didn't think I'd ever do. There are two possibilities: the people with the anti-drug message were lying, or they were too stupid to know they were spreading lies. If you are either, you're not good enough and I don't want you in my life. I demand more of people. Education is a last resort, and your goal in managing any physical or mental health problem should be to avoid it until it's impossible to continue without it. I'm 50. I literally just learned 2 months ago that some quite major human feelings, sensations, and general states of being that I thought were either made up, exaggerated, or something I just wasn't wired for totally exist and are totally things I can do with 5 milligrams of the right medication. 30 years of managing depression and anxiety with talk therapy, CBT, and less ideal medication haven't been a total waste. They are helping me to not be bitter and to say, wow, this is great, I can feel this now. But my friends, if it seems like everyone else is enjoying things more than you are, talk about it, and set your sights on happy and not just surviving. Don't wait until you're in crippling physical and emotional pain and can no longer live your life in any meaningful way. It's not supposed to be that hard. That capitalism can be democratic if most resources are in control of non-elected people who only care about themselves and not about society or environment and only want profit. It is not democratic. For a true democracy, the resources have to be in control of a democratic body, not in private hand. Also, the richest 10% can influence politics more than the rest through lobbyism, which also goes against democracy. Capitalism was never advertised as a democracy. Corporations are run by a small group of people, and previous elitist monarchies were the same. Socialism is not democratic either. The majority of people aren't working class, they are middle and upper class. Capital and private property keep them out of poverty. Without that, everyone is just working class poor. A democratic society with majority vote with a capitalist economy is the best system we have. Who the hell says that capitalism can be democratic? Like, the entire reason we have free market systems are because they're decentralized, without anyone deciding who deserves what. Rather than succeeding by trying to win over the superiors, central planning, or the people, socialism, I guess, you succeed by not getting run over by the harsh mistress that is survival of the fittest. Saying capitalism can be democratic is like saying evolution can be intelligently designed. They're basically opposite concepts. In the USA, there is an entire party called the Democrats, who support capitalism. In other countries, a lot of parties also have democratic in their name despite being capitalism. Most capitalist countries have a part in their constitution saying they should be a democracy. If any of the countries that claim to be democratic actually wanted to be democratic, they should drop capitalism and build some elected council body that makes economic decisions and distributes resources. I'm still waiting on one actually trying though. So what you actually meant is that a country shouldn't call itself democratic if it's capitalist, that only central planning economies can be democratic, and also, that you want people to vote for who decides how much they get paid. Even if we leave aside your clearly nonsense definition of democracy, this system seems like a really bad idea. Like, you're taking the current democratic system, full of rich people lobbying government to implement policies, and then giving said government to decide if those rich people should be richer. Of course they will. I am saying that economic decisions should be decided by the majority of the population. Lobbying isn't democratic at all, so that would be made illegal. If you allow lobbying, people have different political power, which is not democratic. The rich people and property owners will be a minority and won't get their decisions through if it disadvantages the majority, so no, they will not get richer. The industry resources are allocated to what the majority wants, not what the owner wants. The economic system would likely have the goal of fulfilling needs, profiting society, instead of profiting the rich.